Welcome to the Land of Bet Sports Betting Show. Week 6 NFL. Nate and Josh are back here on a Tuesday, getting ahead of some of these lines with you guys, finding early value, also looking at player props, even though we don't have those lines up yet, looking at the guys that we're targeting, some of the projections that we have for them, looking at those Swishland model projections early as well. But we're going to kick it off here with this game in Indy with the Colts and Arizona. Arizona coming off a brutal loss last week. The Colts keep rolling, so we see this spread now moving towards the Colts here, 6.5 now for Zona. And I'm assuming you just wait for that magic number. If you do like Arizona, wait for 7 or more at this point.
Yeah, I think you're going to get the 7, probably 7.5 if you time it right. If you're betting the spread here, and I think the cards can keep it close. This is a nice buy low spot for a serious bettor who likes to fade public perception. Arizona is now going to be perceived to be among the worst teams in the league after losing to the team we have 32nd in the power rankings, and the Titans on just a total fluke loss that was, a lot of them stumbling over themselves and making stupid decisions, but they're not bad talent wise. And now you want to swoop in and potentially get the cards as dogs. That's where they've been good under Jonathan Gannon. 63% ATS as road dogs. They're 73% against the AFC. And he's got some familiarity here in terms of Shane Steichen and him were in the same building in Philly. He definitely knows what Steichen's going to try to do in terms of pushing buttons. And I mean, this Arizona defense has at times really flustered opposing quarterbacks. Their only issue is in the second half, after building a lead against guys like Bryce Young and Cam Ward, they apparently stopped taking them seriously and then just let them go into crazy comeback mode. But Danny Dimes and company, they're going to take them seriously. They're number 1 in most offensive metrics right now. Indy's been world beaters coming off their own blowout win. Trends definitely tend to let up after that. And most importantly, I mean, Arizona can stop the run. So, I mean, Jonathan Taylor maybe gets cooled off a little bit here and they hang around. But either way, I other than the running backs, I think this is a good game to target in terms of air raid style attack at Lucas Oil.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, I do think Danny Dimes is going to come into this game big time. But I think what you're also hunting for a bit is like Arizona coming off of that loss where there's the definition of throw up all over yourselves, because it's like point and again. It's like, okay, we're still up 21-6, even though we blew that touchdown from DeMarcado. That should have been a 76-yard score. Okay, now we're somehow fumbling on their interception and giving them a touchdown. Okay, just don't give them 2. Oh, my Lord, like everything that could have gone wrong. And now we come into a position where it's like, well, that's fine. Just because a team is that bad in those situations doesn't mean that when it's faced with a adversary that it considers a little bit more, let's say just like, I don't know what I kept trying to say permissible, and I was like, that's not the word. An opponent that is more, a little bit more imposing. There we go. 3, 2, and 1. Now they get an opponent that's a little bit more imposing. I would imagine they take it seriously, but we still like the game script to be a lot of air stuff here, because if Arizona is as keen on shutting down the run against Jonathan Taylor, like we do think they will be, and as they've shown so far this year, then there's going to be some more Daniel Jones throwing, and I think he'll be tested. I think he'll actually be okay. Then we look at the other side here, and Trey McBride is actually a guy where we're probably going to get a nice buy low spot after 3 straight unders on about the 62 yards that he needed here over the last 3 weeks as his prop line. Now we're coming in with a good buy low spot for him. And he showed that inconsistency last week. You wonder how much of that is Kyler, but also we definitely got to recognize that Marv, my boy Marv, who we're just calling Marvin Harrison, like has just had a horrible start to the season, despite game 1, then a few weeks in a row where it's like, oh my Lord, then, he comes back a couple weeks ago and does his thing. Now he seems to be back. Now you have to respect him a lot more. But there was a couple of weeks where Trey McBride was just peppered. He couldn't run 5 yards without having 2 guys on him. Yeah, he still was going down the field long enough to get those air yards. He has a lot of metrics in terms of how involved he is in the pass game, where he's basically number 1 for tight ends, right? When it comes to the amount that he's targeted, where he's targeted, ADOT, all that stuff. So you look at the Colts, they haven't played very many tight ends so far this season. Guys like Evan Ingram that they face, he was actually got injured. Bowers missed in their matchup with him last week. Chig over there, Okongwu got them over there 5 for 66 as well. And they're coming off a season where that was also a weakness for them, giving up a ton of receiving yards, 7th most to the tight end position. So this is a good spot for Trey, I believe, to get some yards, and we should see this lower than 60 the way that we have seen it as of late.
Yeah, and Indy's forced to play a lot of zone because their cornerbacks suck. In fact, one had to retire after getting whooped by Puka Nacua all day. So they play 72% zone, and McBride's target share is even higher against the zone. That's when you don't you're not able to bracket him, right? I mean, so he's able to just kind of find those gaps, those levels routes, if you will, where Kyler is actually comfortable throwing the ball in there. I mean, he wants to find McBride for sure. So I mean, I like to play McBride like often like a little parlay with like 5+ receiving receptions along with the receiving, because he's not a guy who explodes for big plays so much. He's a guy who gets there on volume, and so usually you get that correlation.
Yep. No, that's fair. Moving on to the next game here. Interesting matchup because we got the Jags and we got the Seahawks, and we got the Jags at home coming off of a win, a nice win there at the end against that Chiefs squad on Monday night that we were all watching. And it was another instance, Nate, of me going, they just won despite Trevor Lawrence. They're not winning because of him in any way. Their defense is getting work done. But this is a situation for Seattle where it might just be that their strength, right, is what the Jags' weakness is. And you think that they could exploit that and take advantage with the way that Sam Darnold is playing.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bunch of mistakes there by the Chiefs that gave that game away. And again, you want to fade perception. Here, you see the flip where Seattle now is a slight dog, maybe even gets to +2, which is a nice number here in the modern NFL. But generally, when you see that flip, it's the underdog that winds up winning, and it's a gap on the quarterback front. As you said, Sam Darnold is second in QBR, I believe, per ESPN's metrics. Trevor Lawrence is 23rd. Seattle is still second in rush defense EPA, despite they were missing 5 or 6 starters by the end of that game. They might get 2 of them back. I mean, 2 key guys, and DeMarcus Lawrence and Devin Witherspoon, basically Pro Bowl level guys, expected to kind of return here. Jordan Love and Tyreek Woolen are more on the questionable side, and those would also be big lifts for a Seattle defense that I really respect, even their depth, even if they don't have it. And the Jags have a solid defense too, but it's really about Lawrence there. I mean, we might want to look at the odds for him throwing a pick. He's thrown a pick in 4 or 5 games. Definitely had some turnover-worthy plays against the Chiefs on Monday night. And McDonald and company, Lawrence just not on the same page yet with Liam Cohn, and McDonald is very much a great defensive coach. That's why he's 9-1 on the road with the Seahawks. So this is one I definitely would be looking at the money line at even money here for the Seahawks.
Yeah, and it's similar to kind of what I was talking about last week with this Chiefs squad, because I didn't pick them to win necessarily, but I picked receivers the wrong one, but I picked Worthy for his air yards on the outside. It ended up going to Tyquan Thornton. Jesus, he's new to the league. Give me a break. To Thornton there, and then the reverse though, like Patty Mahomes was still balling out, and I would expect Sam Darnold to be able to do a similar thing here against the Jags, and it's specifically on the outside, which is where we bring JSN in. Although he's really done work from anywhere. Most importantly, he's doing work downfield and against zones. Right, he has the ability to just sort of break through it and bust it with the amount that he's running those deep routes. Number 1 in air yards, number 2 in target share. So it's like another guy that I was targeting similar to Worthy, a guy with a really high target share and a guy who's going downfield. Again, just went to the wrong one, but this is that dude, right? There are 2 guys that go downfield for KC. Let's not forget about Thornton here in Seattle. Like, this is the dude who's going downfield. And really, in addition to that, he's getting everything from 15 to 30 yards. He's getting a lot of stuff at 10 yards. He's that dude for Sam Darnold. And I think that's going to be a really good situation for him against Jacksonville. Once again, we got to keep targeting guys who can beat the zone that well.
Yeah, Darnold's doing great with his anticipatory throws to get JSN in those windows. Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs have more than just 2 guys. They are a spread the wealth offense, right? So it's completely different from the Seahawks team, which is pigeonholed in terms of like JSN gets the deep shots, and then everybody else just runs like a 30% route share. Even like they're just rotating in and out. There's nobody else that's consistent in the passing game.
No, it's a lot of running back throws under. And yeah, for the Chiefs, I just mean they only have 2 guys that really run deep routes. This team actually has one that does everything, like we're saying. But love JSN continuously here, and you can probably get some value on 100+ for him. But let's go to a game between 2 struggling teams, although one is coming off a win here with the boys in their victory last week against the Jets, who are ranked very, very low in our power rankings for a reason. So let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. But there might be some value here when you look at them going up against Carolina. And anytime you see Carolina with anything or less than a touchdown for the spread against them, even when they're dogs at home, you're just kind of like, all right, I got to look at it, because we don't believe in Bryce Young. And so without much movement here, you start to go, okay, if this doesn't go too far, I do like the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'd take it under this number. I mean, talk about a quarterback mismatch. You have Bryce Young, who's 41st in EPA per play. Dak Prescott is number 1. So I mean, aside from that, like the Cowboys might have a better supporting cast if they're able to actually play defense. They played well the last 2 weeks, well enough to tie Green Bay, right, and to shut out a Jets team that was far more desperate and not smelling themselves like the Panthers, who, what did we see after their last blowout win? They went ahead and got blown out. So I think I'm just not buying this Rico Dowdle explosion, like that there's some sort of physical team here. This is still a team that struggles to stop the run, that is missing 3 offensive linemen and is not going to be able to establish the run, and then has a turnover-prone quarterback. The Cowboys might get their left tackle and left guard, Smith and Guyton, back here. There's a chance here. There's an outside chance even CeeDee Lamb plays, which would definitely move the spread. So that would be why this is an early pickup here. But otherwise, like, I just like the idea of Dallas controlling this game, and that's why I think we like a positive game script for their running back rather than focusing on any sort of revenge angle that Dowdle, if he even gets another start, is going to come in here and nail his former team. I mean, Dallas's defense is trending up a little bit, at least no longer the worst defense in the league. I think we can say maybe only bottom 5.
Yeah, I mean, look, I do like Javonte Williams this week. I liked him last week. You're probably going to have to get him at a bit more of a premium this week than last week, despite the fact that the Jets don't bring any kind of pressure, and their front seven has been very unimpressive this season, right? It's still not the strength of the Panthers defense, and you can still get a ton of rushing yards at them. Nothing has really changed since last season, although at one point they were historically bad against the run last year. They're still notably bad this season. And we're talking about that positive game script. So you definitely look at him to continue to get touches. And what I think, what we're honing in on here with Javonte is the key angle is that there's still the fact that he's the clear number 1 back. And if that is not necessarily baked into the rushing line that you get for him in this one, then it's good. Like if you see him still at like 14.5 rush attempts in that range, then we're going to continue to like overs for him, because we think he should be priced as, like, in a positive game script, a guy that should be getting about 16 or so, 17 touches and attempts, especially when they're leading in second quarter, or at least the third quarter. And to get there, they haven't really needed their pass game to set up their run game. It's been working. Plus, you get the O-lineman back that we're talking about here, Pro Bowl level guys for the Cowboys to come back and help him get those rush yards. So yeah, there's nobody else out there that you trust to really take those rushes away from Javonte. So if you don't buy that the Panthers are going to hang around, and you don't buy that Bryce Young had one game where he looked good against that Falcons squad, then I think you keep liking guys to get rushing yards against the squad here.
Yeah, I buy Bryce Young getting benched at some point in the next few weeks, back for Dalton again. I mean, Javonte, he's been earning those extra touches, though. I mean, Jaden Blue, who hasn't like committed to the playbook and had all sorts of questions about him, not looked good in his limited attempts. Miles Sanders has looked over the hill and is somewhat injured. So, and Javonte is 2 years removed from the ACL, and he's now 5th in yards created per game, 3rd in rush yards, getting 5.2 yards per carry against the light front. And so when you talk about Dak Prescott shredding people, like, you can't stack the box at all against this Dallas team, and that's why you're going to continue to expect a good rushing numbers for him, especially when favored. Yeah, he's had 17 attempts per game against your Giants and the Jets because they were favored in those games and averaged 116 on the ground.
Well, one note that I'll add, though, like, let's not tarnish Rico too much if he is the lead back and there's no Chuba again, right? And then you've got Rico coming in against a Dallas front that, despite leading for most of that game, still gave up, right, like whatever it was, 130 total yards rushing receiving to Breece. And we think that if you think Rico's going to be out there, now I would leave the receiving out of it. Rico's a downhill guy that's going to get the rush, and if the negative game script is there, but don't poo-poo like a 45.5 yard rushing line for Rico Dowdle against a Dallas defense that I'm still not convinced is going to be anything to sort of like
well, it's not going to be that low. If Chuba's out again, it's not going to be that low after it goes for 200. Yeah,
that's fair. 185 will really raise your number up there. But let's go to this game here, which is interesting because I don't think we really want to talk about this spread too much. 3 seems about right. I might give a slight nod to the Bucs here with the injuries that the 49ers are still facing. We don't know about their wide receivers and whatnot, but I think the point of bringing this game up, let's start with the idea that we got a prop for this game, but I know you want to talk about Baker and the idea that he could be up for MVP. He's got to be the talk of the league. He's the most interesting guy to talk about. We've been talking about Josh Allen and other guys up for MVP for a while, but now we have somebody who could legitimately usurp a Joe Burrow, obviously not in the mix right now, Lamar not in the mix right now, and then Josh Allen. Yeah,
and Baker still has longer odds than Herbert, who's just in a disastrous situation. And If you look at them side by side, like Baker has also, it's not quite as bad with the O line, but like Baker has done more with less, and his escapability numbers, his pressured throw numbers are just amazing.
Before you get too far away from the Herbert point, you've got the wide receiver injuries to Baker that talking about doing way less with more. No, it's huge. Ladd, Keenan Allen, three guys that you're like, they get hurt a lot. Not hurt at all this year and still not looking as good as Baker. So
no, yeah, and Chargers going to Charger, right? They're going to nap at some point in the season. It's starting early, I guess.
Started early.
Yeah, Baker's to your point. Baker's wide receivers are 53rd on average in separation. So he's basically got a rook right now, a veteran coming back from injury, and not much else. And he's freaking 4-1, doing things that nobody's done before, like his line against the Seahawks. 375 plus and fewer than 5 incompletions. Nobody's done that. And the Seahawks were number 1 in some DPA metrics. Like, that is a damn good defense.
It is.
He just shredded. So yeah, I mean, you mentioned Josh Allen, the favorite. Mahomes, of course, still in there as the top 2, but there's always some voter fatigue with these things. And Baker does get the Bills head to head. He gets the Rams in prime time. He gets the Lions after this game on Monday Night Football. If he can win 2 of those 3, I'd say suddenly, I mean, this number is just going to be a lot shorter, and especially as the candidates just kind of continue to thin off, due to these other circumstances we're talking about. And so if he can get those big wins and then he closes with cupcakes, he gets Carolina, Miami, and Carolina to close the season. So pad your numbers there.
And the key here is that we got to see him, because honestly, like, we're not all watching the NFL week 17 or 18 as intently as we are the previous 16 weeks, when it's like, okay, a lot of divisions are locked up or whatever. There might be one spot, so maybe I'm honing on this one game. My fantasy league is over, so red zone's not as appealing, right? But like, before that, he's in front of eyeballs on prime time. That's the key here. How many Monday night games do you get? How many Sunday night games do you get, et cetera? How many island games? And at this point, he is the talk, and so he has the narrative alongside with all of it. So love this for him. Don't forget the Bucky Irving injury as well, and then some wonky stuff for guys outside of him, like Pat Mahomes losing to the Jags. But either way, speaking of Bucky Irving being out, that does open up snaps for Rachaad White, which is always the key in this matchup here. You're going to look for, the 49ers are not getting pressure the way that they used to. Bosa's out. We know that they've got their problems. Rachaad White is still just running the same HB angle to the middle of the field every time for a 7-yard reception, then added to it with whatever he gets in the yak. So I'm still going to like his receiving. I was talking about this with you earlier. If this comes out lower than 30, I'm happy to take it. It was 22.5 this last week without Bucky Irving. We know Bucky's almost definitely out once again this week. So I think you've got to look at him as a really nice supplement to maybe some of the receivers for Tampa Bay, where the Niners defense is a lot better limiting stuff on the outside with those corners. But yeah, we know what his skill set is receiving, and I'm not saying he's not going to get some rushes, but he'll definitely have some rushes vultured from him before he has any passing downs vultured from him coming in. So I think we like the workload for him, and that's all that matters. Is if he's getting snaps, then we're going to take him to be about a 30-yard, 3 to 4 reception kind of guy.
Yeah, and the Niners not getting pressure, so they might have to blitz more, and that's where White really picks up these long gains is on the screens that counter a blitz, right? And then all of a sudden he's just sprinting down the sideline. I mean, he in 2023, before Bucky got in the league, he was top 5 in receptions and routes, 67% routes run as a back, and averaged 8.6 yards per reception. So I mean, that's what
fantasy leagues that year.
Yeah. I mean, and we're looking at a Niners defense that's bottom 10 last year in receptions to running backs, 5th worst this year after giving up 66 to Kyron Williams last week, and a nice line to Kamara earlier in the season.
Yeah, the strength of their defense has definitely faded to the back for that 49ers team, whereas it was in the front for years when they were making Super Bowls, which I don't think we expect them to be doing this season. So let's move to this next game with one team that is just on fire in a bad way. I don't want to say dumpster fire. That might be a little bit too far, but for the Ravens right now, it's tough. And they are at home, and they are 7.5-point dogs after another shellacking that they took last week. That's 2 in a row, one with Lamar playing for about 3 quarters. The last one, all Cooper Rush. And so now we've got a Rams team coming in looking strong. Tough loss against the Niners here. But tell me what you're looking at for them to cover, and why you still feel like this is a blowout spot for the Rams on the road.
I mean, I don't think I'll be betting the spread either way. I mean, I'll say the closing looks video did fantastic last week. Every single pick was right down to the end where I stuck to my guns on the Ravens, somehow finding a way to compete with 11 starters out, I think, on both sides of the ball, and they did not compete. No, narrator, it was not close. But so, I mean, if you do want to take the Rams, though, I mean, you're going to have to monitor the injury report right up to the end here to make sure that guys like Kyle Hamilton are not playing. The Ravens just signed CJ Gardner-Johnson, so they're trying whatever they can to not go into their bye at 1-5. But it is a rest spot when you have the bye coming up. When you still play in a weak division, they know they can catch the Steelers, even if they rest Lamar through this bye. And the Rams need to bounce back, right? I mean, they should have lost 2 weeks ago. They did lose to the Niners. They now have a rest advantage. Sean McVay kills people with rest advantages. He's 8-1 ATS as a road favorite. So it's a tough spot to lean either way. But I mean, yeah, I would lean Rams if anything and expect another potential blowout.
I think that's fair. I'm starting to think about some Blake Corum stuff, but I also think we gotta bring up Puka here, because is there going to be a need to use him enough to get to such a high prop number that we've got projected here for him to be looking at maybe 98.5 receiving yards at the open? And for those of you who are just going to look at the Ravens' poor metrics in the pass game against wide receivers, and then add that to the fact that Puka's gone over 100 in at least 3, maybe 4 games so far this season. I think 3 of 5 at this point that he's gone over 100. You just got to chill a little bit. Just pump the brakes, knowing that this might be should be a very positive game script. And I think McVay is going to like the idea of using Corum and Kyren to get 30 handoffs from Matt Stafford in this one. Loves to be able to ice his, what are they, brother-in-law, whatever they are, his boy Matt Stafford. McVay does to be able to kind of keep him for the games where he knows he's going to need him to throw. And look, I mean, overall, number one receivers have not done that well. Granted, you do want guys like Kyle Hamilton out there for this Ravens squad to feel good about them being able to limit guys. But again, how much is he going to be needed? Jordan Whittington should be healthy this week, and you've got Tutu still available. There's other guys being used. We saw Devontae get the majority of the air yards, and like I projected last week in the Niners and Rams game, Puka was used to pick up first downs, to get 7 to 12 yards, and not necessarily on deep post routes that lead to more yak and long receptions. That's the Devontae Adams role. Might be that you see a Puka line where it's by the first half, he looks similar to the way that Nico did last week, where it's about 5 receptions, around 50 to 60 yards. And then do you really need him in the second half if you're up a couple scores against the Ravens?
Yeah, I mean, you look the last 2 weeks, if you split it out by half, Puka, I don't think it's done much damage in the first half. And then all of a sudden the Rams are in desperation mode. They start peppering him. He just runs through a wall, quite literally, and wins you the game against the Colts, at least. And yeah, so I mean, in a blowout in week 2 or a comfortable win, he had 91 yards. He only had 68 air yards against the Titans, and Devontae had a big game. Kind of a similar matchup here. I hear your point about Corum. I started actually writing him out here as the early look. It's just whether you can stomach the idea of coaches' decisions, because he played 6 snaps because he fumbled last week, and Kyren fumbled too, but apparently veterans get that benefit. And Blake, I mean,
all fumbles are not created equal. Hold on. All fumbles are not created equal is my only point. And a 312-pound man falling on your arm from behind you is going to be tough to keep that ball in your arm. Corum also coming off the week before where he had a key drop in that game against the Colts, I believe. So there's some reasons to sort of be a little bit cold on Corum. But once you get into the idea of and last week being high on him would have been predicated entirely on a very positive game script that didn't play out against the Niners, who were injured. Now you think, okay, they handle business and this is a 20-point win, then Corum's got to be in there by the beginning of the fourth. That would be the only thought process.
Then maybe that's your SGP, right? Is if you are going to take the Rams at an adjusted spread, or maybe all the way up to 10, then you're going to get some Corum rushing in there, 30 plus, 40 plus, and expect him to be the one icing this away. Yeah.
Now we're talking some correlation bets that make sense, baby. I like where your head's at, but that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Appreciate the time as always. We are going to be back with those closing lines. Nate will be at the very least. Maybe I'll jump on, but he's going to have some more player props once we have those lines available. I'll be out with the Thursday night video. Got plenty of stuff on the website on landyourbets.com, so check it all out. Until we see y'all next, happy betting.